His name was John Ellis. To the outside world, he was what you'd call a man who had it all: sharp suits, sharper instincts, and a resume that made venture capitalists nervous in a good way. But no one saw the hours behind his eyes: the 2 a.m. calls from Tokyo, the 7 a.m. deals in New York, the dinners eaten alone while Rhea texted, "coming home late again." John didn't answer right away. He rarely did. Not because he didn't love her, but because he was chasing something he couldn't afford to stop for. You see, the $10 million deal wasn't just business. It was the culmination of 14 months of sacrifice, 39 flights, 112 presentations, 3 minor panic attacks no one knew about, and 1 marriage slowly eroding in the background. And yet for John, it was all worth it. Because men like him, men who came from nothing, they don't chase wealth for comfort, they chase it for validation. He remembered the exact moment the deal closed, 7:42 p.m. Thursday. The pen trembled slightly in his hand as he signed the final page. The client clapped him on the back. The legal team cheered. John didn't cheer. He just nodded, then reached for his Rolex and whispered, "This is the moment I'll remember for the rest of my life." He wasn't wrong. He just didn't know why he'd remember it. Later that night, he returned home, not to a red carpet or champagne tower, but to Rhea, his wife, waiting in silk pajamas, swirling wine in a crystal glass, her smile soft but unreadable. She kissed his cheek as he stepped in. He set the leather duffel down. "What's in the bag?" she asked, playful. "A trophy," he smiled. $10 million in proof. "Is it real?" "Technically." They both laughed, but only one of them meant it. That night, the world was quiet. No ringing phones, no flashing screens, no more negotiations. Just the soft hum of the apartment heater and the sound of his key turning the lock. John stepped inside, the weight of months finally lifting off his shoulders. And there she was, Rhea Morgan, his wife, his partner, his contradiction. She stood barefoot in silk, holding a glass of wine like it was part of her. Her hair swept over one shoulder, her eyes sparkled in the warm light. She looked like home, but something in her gaze felt rehearsed. "You look like you just conquered Wall Street," she smiled. John chuckled, setting the heavy leather duffel on the marble floor. "I kinda did." He loosened his tie, walked toward her, kissed her forehead like a ritual he hadn't performed in months, and when she pulled back, her eyes flicked toward the bag. "What's that?" she asked, her voice dipped in curiosity. "A trophy," he replied. $10 million in proof." "Is it real?" "Not exactly, just symbolic. The actual funds are transferring Monday, but this," he tapped the bag gently, "this is what winning feels like." Rhea laughed lightly. Her fingers traced the handle. "You trust me with it?" she asked playfully. John didn't hesitate. "Of course, you're my wife." She leaned closer, brushing her cheek against his. "Sweet," she whispered, soft and deadly. Then added, "I'll keep it in the closet tonight, just in case." John nodded, exhausted and content. He kissed her one last time, then walked to the bedroom, unaware that he'd just handed over the final piece of a puzzle she'd been building without him. John Ellis always woke to the smell of coffee. Dark roast, French press. Rhea's ritual, even when she was annoyed with him. It was her way of saying, "We're still married, even if we're distant." But this morning, there was nothing. No scent, no sound. Just the faint hum of the refrigerator and the cold bite of silence. He blinked, sat up. Bedroom empty. Closet door cracked open. Her side, bare. He stepped out, calling, "Rhea?" No reply. He walked barefoot across the hardwood floor, something tightening in his chest. The living room was clean. Too clean. The leather duffel gone. And on the kitchen counter, where her mug usually sat, steam curling from it like a gentle promise, there was only a folded piece of paper. John hesitated, then picked it up. One sentence, 12 words. Each one sharper than a knife. Thanks for the money. I'm starting over with my boyfriend. No name, no apology, just gratitude and goodbye. He stood there, note in one hand, silence pressing in, heart slow, eyes scanning the space where she used to exist. And then he laughed. A deep, hollow, echoing laugh that rang off the granite countertops and bounced off the walls of a life that just cracked open. He laughed, not a chuckle, not a sigh. A full, deep, unfiltered laugh that rolled from his gut and spilled into the silence. It was sharp, strange, and almost out of place, like a man laughing at a funeral. Because in that moment, John Ellis wasn't heartbroken. He wasn't blindsided. He was prepared. You see the bag Rhea stole? It wasn't real. Sure, it looked real. Black Italian leather, stainless zippers, heavy as a sin. But inside, hundreds of high-quality, legally manufactured replica bills. Fake, every last one. No monetary value, but plenty of meaning. It had been part of the plan for months. Back when the deal was still just whispers and coffee-stained contracts, John had already designed the decoy, a duffel bag made to impress the client, make them feel the weight of the deal. But hidden beneath the stitching, a GPS tracker disguised as a luxury brand logo tag. It wasn't just about theatrics, it was insurance, because John didn't just do business with money. He did business with liars, with charmers, with people who smiled while they sharpened knives behind their backs. Somewhere deep down, he always knew if betrayal ever came for him, it wouldn't wear a stranger's face. It would wear silk pajamas and kiss his cheek goodnight. John didn't panic. He didn't flip tables. He didn't call the cops. He didn't even raise his voice. He just walked to his home office, still barefoot, still holding the coffee Rhea didn't make. He sat down, opened the drawer, pulled out his laptop like it was just another Monday, clicked the app. The tracker pinged. Southbound, Highway 17, 68 miles per hour. Predictable, he muttered, taking a sip. Then came the second window, cloud cam footage. He rewound. 2:17 a.m. There she was, Rhea in a hoodie and leggings, slipping out the front door like a thief who thinks she's clever. 2:19 a.m., she paused. A shadow stepped in, tall, scruffy, too familiar. Darren. John's old gym buddy, the guy who never missed game night, the one who always laughed too loud at Rhea's jokes, the one John had let sit on his couch, drink his beer. Talk about loyalty. John hit pause. There they were, Rhea and Darren standing in his driveway, kissing before sliding the duffel into the trunk like it was some romantic getaway. But John wasn't shocked. He was smiling. Because he didn't just know where they were, he knew exactly where they were going. Out on the highway, the GPS dot kept pulsing, fast, confident, like two people racing toward freedom, completely unaware they were driving deeper into a trap. John leaned back in his chair, legs crossed, coffee still warm. He watched as the location changed. A remote cabin just outside the city. Cheap, temporary, the kind of place that smells like wet wood and old betrayal. He knew it well. It was Darren's favorite hideaway. He'd bragged about it once between sets at the gym. "Nobody ever checks out there," Darren had said. "Perfect for disappearing." Now they were there, Rhea and Darren, two lovers, two fools. They carried the duffel bag into the cabin together as if it were a child they'd created, the symbol of their fresh start. John could picture it all. Candlelight, champagne, her laughter echoing as they unzipped the bag, his arms around her, their eyes glowing drunk on the idea of escape. Only, what waited inside wasn't freedom. It was foam stacks and plastic dreams, he whispered to no one in particular, voice soft but sharp. "Welcome to the beginning of the end." The phone rang. Blocked number. John glanced at the screen. He didn't flinch, didn't hesitate, just tapped answer and placed it on speaker, then took another sip of coffee. "John?" Rhea's voice exploded through the line, cracked, breathless, furious. "What the hell is this?" John leaned back, quiet. "You gave me fake money. You set me up." He could almost hear her pacing, the sound of a cheap motel door slamming in the background, desperation dripping through every syllable. He waited, let her unravel, then replied, calm as a chess master. "You weren't set up, Rhea. You just walked into a truth you never wanted to see." She scoffed. "Don't do that calm crap with me. You tricked me. You're sick." "No," he said, with the stillness of a surgeon holding a scalpel. "You weren't tricked. You were arrogant. And now you're loud because the silence finally caught you." The line fell quiet for a moment. Then she whispered, "You planned this." John smiled. "Not wide, just enough." "Of course I did. You were always playing with fire. You just forgot that I build the matches." 10:12 a.m. John's phone buzzed. One image, one message. The photo loaded slowly, but the moment it did, his lips purled into the quietest, coldest smile he'd worn in years. It was Darren, face down. Arms behind his back, hands cuffed, his cheek pressed against the sun-warmed hood of a police cruiser. A look on his face that said, this wasn't the plan. Next to him, Rhea, barefoot, mascara streaked down both cheeks like black rivers, wearing yesterday's clothes and the look of a woman who thought she had time. She was crying, not loud, not hysterical, just that quiet, broken sobbing, the kind that comes when you realize the cameras are still rolling. John stared at the screen, took a deep breath, and whispered, almost gently, "Right on time." The message from his lawyer was simple: arrested without incident, bag recovered, charges pending. Do you want to press felony or just let the world see what she is? John didn't reply, not yet, because sometimes silence hurts louder than sirens. 2 days later, police station, neutral-colored conference room, cheap coffee, no emotion. John sat across from two people, a detective with tired eyes and a lawyer with too much cologne and too little leverage. "She has no priors," the lawyer said. "If this goes on her record, she'll lose everything. Her job, her reputation, her family will see it. The media already caught wind. This will ruin her." John didn't blink. "Good," he said flatly. The lawyer blinked. "Excuse me." John leaned forward slightly, his voice like sharpened glass. "The next man she meets deserves to know who she really is. Not the smile, not the silk, the truth." Silence filled the room. The detective looked up from his notes. "You sure you don't want to press charges?" John nodded slowly. "Drop the felony. But I want the arrest record public. No sealing, no favors, no redactions." The lawyer sighed. "That'll follow her forever." John stood up, straightened his cufflinks, gave the man one final look. "Exactly." It took less than 48 hours. Once the arrest records went public, the internet did the rest. Screenshots spread like wildfire. Her mugshot, the cabin address, the leaked footage, grainy but clear enough to see her carrying the bag. And the comments? Brutal, relentless, unforgiving. Gold digger, snake, classic thief energy. So much silk, so little soul. Imagine betraying your own husband for play money? Her social media went from filtered brunch pics and sunset yoga to comment sections that looked like digital firebombs. John never commented. He didn't post, he didn't like, he simply watched, from a distance. And then came the email, from her mother. Short, plain, no subject line. "John, I don't know what to say. We had no idea. She's not the daughter we raised. You didn't deserve this. We support whatever you decide to do." Mary and John read it once, then closed the laptop. No reply, because sometimes silence says, "I'm already gone." John didn't throw a party. He didn't post a revenge story. He didn't even tell most people what had happened. He just got to work. While Rhea's name sank in hashtags and headlines, his rose in boardrooms. The $10 million deal went through cleanly. But what impressed the client most wasn't the contract. It was how John handled betrayal with precision calm and no public drama. That got people talking. Whispers turned into interviews. One firm became 3. One market turned into 5. Then came the invitations. Business summits in Tokyo, ethics panels in Berlin, a TEDx stage in San Francisco. He stood before crowded rooms not to tell his story, but to teach something deeper. He wrote an article, a short one, titled "When Love Becomes a Liability." It wasn't petty, it didn't name names, but it hit hard. It talked about how misplaced trust can bankrupt more than bank accounts, how betrayal doesn't just end marriages, it exposes blind spots in leadership, in judgment, in ourselves. The post went viral. Hundreds of thousands of views, tens of thousands of shares, thousands of comments. CEOs, students, single moms, survivors, everyone saw a piece of themselves in his words. And John, he didn't feel famous. He felt free. He didn't text, he didn't call, he didn't post a quote or write another article. He sent a small package. No return address, no name on the outside, just one stamp. And one silent message. Inside, one replica $100 bill, one USB drive, one handwritten note, folded once, written in black ink. Rhea would open it on a Wednesday morning in the small rented apartment with peeling paint and no natural light. She'd think it was junk mail. Until she saw the contents. The USB held just one file, grainy black and white footage. Her, 2:17 a.m., taking the bag, kissing Darren, walking away from her own name. And the note? It didn't rage, it didn't beg, it didn't explain. It simply said, "This is what you stole. This is what you lost. And this is why you no longer matter to me." Signed, J. No curse words, no threats, just the kind of message that echoes long after the envelope is empty. 1 year later, to the day. Same hour, same minute, 7:42 p.m. John Ellis was sitting on a rooftop terrace, glass of scotch in one hand, the skyline of a city he now owned, figuratively, stretching before him. His phone buzzed. No name, no profile picture, just a burner account. The message read, "You won. I lost everything. I hope you're happy." He stared at the screen for a moment. No rush, no emotion on his face. Just pause. Then his thumbs moved. One reply, one line. "You didn't lose everything. You just never deserved anything." He hit send, then blocked the number, deleted the thread, set the phone down, and took a slow sip of scotch. The wind moved gently through his shirt. No music, no background noise, just the kind of silence that says, "This is over." Not all revenge needs fire. Not all closure comes from confrontation. Sometimes what you build quietly is louder than anything you could destroy. John Ellis never raised his voice. He never exposed anyone. He never tried to ruin her. He just refused to be ruined. And in doing so, he won. Not with a war, but with walls, with distance, with growth so massive, it became the one thing Rhea could never undo: irrelevance. His final message wasn't for her. It was for anyone who ever trusted too deeply, loved too blindly, and fell too hard for someone who only saw them as a stepping stone. Sometimes the loudest revenge is silence. And the best justice is success they can only watch from afar. He never looked back. And she could only scroll. Not all battles need noise. Not all justice needs a courtroom. Sometimes the most powerful way to respond to betrayal isn't with rage or revenge, but with growth. John Ellis didn't destroy Rhea. He didn't chase her down. He simply rebuilt himself so high that she could no longer reach. And that's the lesson. When someone betrays you, don't waste your life proving they were wrong. Build something so meaningful that they become a footnote in your story, not the headline. Because closure isn't about getting even, it's about getting better. If this story moved you, if you've ever been betrayed, underestimated, or forced to start over, you're not alone. On Through Her Eyes, we tell stories that don't just entertain, they awaken. So if you believe in strength through silence, in healing through growth, and in justice that doesn't always need a gavel, subscribe now, because the next story might just be yours.